The U.S. State Department says thousands of foreign militants have gone to Syria to fight the government there. Deputy State Department spokeswoman Harf said approximately 12,000 foreigners from at least 50 countries have joined the insurgency in Syria. She said a number of American citizens have also gone to join the insurgents. Meanwhile, another U.S. official who was speaking on the condition of anonymity said more than 100 U.S. citizens have traveled or tried to travel to Syria to fight President Bashar al-Assad's government. A day earlier, FBI Director James Comey said uprooting homegrown terrorists is the FBI's #1 priority. He said the U.S. citizens who try to join the insurgency in Syria pose a serious security threat to the country. Let's speak to a Syrian activist, Mimi al-Laham, who joins us via Skype from Australia. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, Ms. al-Laham. Now, I'd like to get your comments on James Comey, the director of FBI's comments regarding homegrown terrorists. He said uprooting them is the FBI's #1 priority. That is interesting, considering the way the U.S. has been funding and pushing the ideology of these militants in Syria.
It is very interesting indeed, and very hypocritical, because this announcement has come years too late. I mean, the Syrian government for the last 2 years has been providing the United Nations with hundreds and thousands of names of foreign fighters. But this comment is the first acknowledgement you get from the United States that Syria is in fact fighting foreign terrorists. And the reality is that they are more than happy for terrorists to undermine the Syrian and Iraqi states and the Libyan state, anywhere in the Middle East. If no comment was made when al-Qaeda was cutting off the heads of the Syrian people and executing Syrian journalists, such as Maya Nasser and many others. But when it came to one American journalist, now we start to hear these comments, and it is directly the fact of the U.S. foreign policy in Syria that has resulted in this so-called terror threat that they're fighting now. And it wasn't, many people even back in 2012 were saying that once again the U.S. government was going to repeat what it has been doing in the Middle East since the war in Afghanistan. They create these terrorist groups, and then they go back and use them as an excuse to fight, and as an excuse to take away the freedom of their people. And now we're just seeing the motions of that. They create the threat and then they pretend to fight it. If they really were serious about fighting ISIS, then they would not be undermining the Syrian state and military. They would not be giving millions of dollars to groups who at one time fought with ISIS and who continue to work with Jabhat al-Nusra, the other faction of al-Qaeda.
So, Ms. al-Laham, what you're basically saying is that the blowback we're seeing from the U.S. policy vis-a-vis the foreign-backed militants in Syria was pre-planned, that this is not an unintended consequence of supporting the militants against the government of President Bashar al-Assad.
Not at all. I think the plan was even written down when Joe Biden suggested that Syria and Iraq and other states be carved up into statelets. A Kurdish north and basically lined with sects on sectarian lines. And this ISIS group, they're allowed to do whatever they want in Mosul, but once they get close to Erbil and the U.S. interest there, that's when airstrikes against them happen. I think that, of course, they knew that undermining a military and the borders of a state is going to cause extremists to come. Turkish border is still open, ISIS is still allowed to go through, and Turkey is part of NATO. So to pretend that, oh, this is an unintended consequence and we didn't know what was happening, no, they knew exactly what they were doing.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there for now. That was Mimi al-Laham, Syrian activist, joining us via Skype from Australia. Ms. al-Laham, thank you very much for your comments here on Press TV, as always.